Boy, I appreciate another good question for me. The sheriffs come to the legislature and ask for help. The previous session, we needed 300 new beds, and you can count on us needing X hundred new beds at every session, ad infinitum, ad nauseum, if we don't get a control of ourselves in mass arrest and mass prosecution and mass incarceration. It is a difficult thing to say, but Arkansas seems to be incarcerating more black and brown people over drug laws than any other country, any other state in the nation, perhaps, and certainly more than any other civilized country. We arrest, incarcerate more people than should be, and as my first step as governor to end that would be to pardon every nonviolent drug offender in the state of Arkansas. Then we'll have plenty of beds. Then we can rent out some of these jails and prisons for something useful for a change. But to continue to incarcerate people for drug actions and nonviolent actions is absurd. It's time to stop.
We have over 2,000 state inmates backed up in county jails. That's putting a lot of pressure on our counties, and I understand that. And I'm not going to stand here and tell you we're not going to have to build another prison. There's some studies going on. I'll review those studies, but I'll tell you this. If we are required to build another prison, I want meaningful reforms as part of that approval process. Number one, we need tougher sentences. Tougher sentences, I think, will reduce some of the repeat offenders. We need tougher sentences for repeat offenders, and we need tougher sentences for gun theft and home robberies. Secondly, we need smarter sentences. They're now trying this down in Magnolia and El Dorado. Typically, we see a 50% recidivism rate in Arkansas. For those nonviolent criminals who have been through the program in lieu of prison time, we're seeing a 7% recidivism rate down there, requiring them to get a GED, requiring them to get drug treatment, requiring them to learn a to learn a job skill and to be able to get a job. It's part of the reentry programs that we need to work on. ACE's solution to the reentry programs is an extra $5 for each parolee in this state. That is not going to cut it. We've got to have a reentry program that works. We've got to increase our parole and probation officers to ensure greater accountability for those folks that are out on parole and probation. And I'm committed to doing those things. And if we do a tougher sentencing, if we do smarter sentencing, long term, we will no longer have to build more and more jails.
I don't have all the answers when it comes to prisons, but I know one thing: we've got a problem. And if we look around the world, we have a higher percentage of our people behind bars than any country in the world. And we're talking, you know, the extreme countries, the communist countries, a whole gambit of the world. We have more people in jail. And I think we have to really ask ourselves why. You know, it's not that our laws are more lax than any country. There, you know, there are countries like the Netherlands where drugs, you can go buy them on any street corner. And it's not because we're more strict. There are countries in the Middle East where they chop people's hands off for basic theft. But we have more people in jail than any other country in the world, and we need to figure out why that is. And I agree we need smarter sentences, but we need to figure out what those smarter sentences are. You know, the facts are we are putting more and more people in jail. I think the drug war, the war on drugs, I think we've lost that. I believe Mr. Hutchinson spent some time as the drug czar for briefly, but we've lost the war on drugs. And we need to re-examine the way we approach the war on drugs, because whatever we're doing, it's not working. You know, we have people in jails, and we need to ask ourselves, do they need to be in jails? You have people who commit crimes. Well, once you're a convicted felon, try to get a job. And it, you know, it perpetuates poverty. It breaks up our families. There are all kinds of issues that are related to incarceration and our criminal justice system. And I believe strongly that we need to put away our violent criminals. I mean, I think we have no choice but that. But I think we really need to look at why. What is our problem? Why do we have so many people in our jails?
I approach this from the standpoint of both a federal prosecutor, but also someone that is very concerned about job creation in Arkansas, my number one priority. And this is an economic development issue. When you talk to the Chamber of Commerce, when you talk to our industrial leaders, and they're having a problem having their workers pass drug screens, it's reducing productivity and effectiveness in the workplace. And the answer to the drug problems that we have in the state is not legalization of drugs. I think it's a combination, just as I did as head of the DEA. We need to talk about education, train our young people to say no. We need to have good, effective drug rehabilitation programs and invest in that, as well as having the law enforcement component. In terms of the prison space today, I've announced my plan. I'm the only candidate up here I'm aware of that has a comprehensive crime plan that includes an effective parole system, drug treatment courts, investing in those, prison space as a part of the equation, and an effective reentry program that I suggested we invest at least $300,000. I guess Congressman Ross says that's $5 per inmate. I hope his solution is not just simply promising more and more money to everybody that has a need. I'm trying to balance the budget here, and $300,000 at least for a new reentry program will make a difference, and I've been very specific about that.
Years ago, a gentleman said, if you're afraid of them, put them in prison. If you're mad at them, do something else. And that's all we're talking about, folks. If we'll quit putting people in prison that we're mad at, who we believe has made a poor moral choice in their life, who has done something foolish and gotten in trouble over it, if we'll find some way to remediate their lives, to help them, then we won't have a prison problem.
You're right, Congressman Hutchinson. I did the math, and $300,000 divided by 60,000 folks that are on parole is about $5 per parolee. I'm not suggesting we can fix the problem with money, but I can promise you we cannot fix the problem by investing an additional $5 in reentry programs per parolee. I have a plan that will address that, tougher sentences, smarter sentences. We can do this, and that's why 65 of the 75 county sheriffs in this state have endorsed my candidacy for governor.
It is an economic development issue in the sense of when we have people in prison, they're not contributing to society. They're actually a drain on society. We need to find a way to make people more productive so that when they come out, they're able to be productive, they're able to get jobs, and they don't go back to prison. The revolving doors of our prisons, you know, we've heard about that for years, it's a problem. And so I think we need to look at education, and we need to look at our laws and prioritize our laws, who should be in jail and who shouldn't.
It's important to put this in historic perspective because I was a federal prosecutor during the height of the drug challenges in our country. And I saw the lives impacted in families. I saw communities that were destroyed, workplaces that were ineffective. And we have to do more in terms of fighting illegal drugs and also the education side. But one thing that's important to remember is that since the height of the drug problems in America in the late 70s and the early 80s, we've reduced overall drug use by 50% in our country. And so there is some success. It's lives that are changed and lives that are saved.